Sometimes, what you're carrying isn't in your arms, it's in your past. Terminal C at Red Hollow International Airport in Ohio buzzed with a sort of ambient chaos, only airports, no wheels screeching across tile, muffled announcements bouncing off polished walls, and a restless energy hanging in the March air like fog. Officer Colin Mercer, a veteran airport security agent with a record longer than most, stood in his usual post near the main concourse. At his side was Max, a 6-year-old Belgian Malinois, whose sharp instincts had once uncovered a hidden firearm in a baby stroller. Colin trusted Max more than he trusted most humans, especially after what happened overseas. But today, something about Max was off. He wasn't just alert, was agitated. His nose twitched toward the far end of the corridor. Colin followed his line of sight just as a tall blonde woman emerged from the crowd. She moved slowly, her hands carrying 2 brown paper bags. Her pregnant belly pressed beneath a white blouse and a navy coat. Oversized sunglasses masked her face. Her shoes were flats, practical, silent. But it wasn't her attire that got to Colin. It was how Max responded. He froze, then growled, then barked sharp, relentless, not aggressive, but urgent. Colin's heart kicked into a faster rhythm. Max didn't bark like this. Not unless he knew something no one else did. "Ma'am," Colin called, stepping forward, "I need you to stop for a moment." The woman paused, lips pressed together. Then she took 2 more steps and collapsed. The bags tumbled from her hands. Papers fluttered, small bottles rolled across the floor, and a sealed envelope slid across the tiles. A tiny stuffed bear lay crumpled beside her. Colin dropped to his knees, calling for medical backup. Max barked wildly, not in warning this time, but in panic. Then Colin saw it, a slightly crumpled envelope near the woman's hand. On it, one word, written in unsteady cursive, "Sorry." Something deeper than protocol shifted in Colin's gut. This wasn't a fainting spell. It was a message. And this woman, whoever she was, wasn't supposed to make it to this airport. The woman was stabilized and taken to the airport's emergency medical clinic. Her ID said her name was Elena Maddox. No prayers, no red flags, nothing. But Max still wouldn't leave her side. Colin watched the paramedics wheel her away, his eyes catching a glimpse of something clutched tightly in her left hand, a scratched, aged military dog tag. The name etched into it nearly brought him to his knees. Jared Kessler, a name he hadn't heard in over 20 years. Memories he had buried beneath deserts and gunfire surged forward. Nights spent in Kandahar, a final mission that went wrong, and a promise never fulfilled. Colin's fingers grazed the envelope. He slipped it into his coat without a word. Back in the staff break room, Colin sat under the hum of fluorescent lights and stared at the envelope. The handwriting wasn't Elena's. It was Jared's. Slanted, all caps, written under pressure. But Jared Kessler had died in 2003. A closed coffin funeral. Confirmed. Filed. Forgotten. So how in the hell did his dog tag end up with a woman in 2025? Colin broke the seal on the envelope with trembling hands. Inside, a single yellowing page. "If you're reading this, it means I failed to keep my promise." That first line landed like a blow. The rest of the letter read like a mix of confession and warning. Jared spoke of a civilian interpreter he had protected during their last tour. Her name was Sanaa, and she carried something more dangerous than a weapon knowledge. She was pregnant when he died, and he had sworn to protect her no matter what. If the timeline was right, Elena Maddox could be his daughter. Colin's hands trembled. The implications were horrifying, and it explained Max's reaction. He wasn't just detecting danger. He was remembering. A sharp knock pulled Colin from a letter. His partner, Officer Derek Yates, entered. "She woke up," Derek said, his voice tight. "Asked for you by name." Colin's legs felt like lead as he followed Derek to the clinic. Inside the room, Elena sat upright on the hospital bed. Her skin was pale, her expression guarded, but her eyes were Jared's. She mouthed, "Do you know who I am?" Colin stepped inside, the door clicking shut behind him. "You knew him, didn't you?" she asked, her voice rough. "I served with him," Colin replied, voice low. "We were like brothers." "He told me you'd find me," she said. Her eyes shimmered, but no tears fell. If anything ever happened, she reached under her pillow and pulled out another letter. I found this after my mom died, she continued. And then everything started, people watching me, following me, searching my apartment. They were looking for something my father left behind. She placed the letter in his hand. Colin stared at the folded paper like it held the last pieces of a puzzle he hadn't known he was solving. That night, he read it. To my daughter, if you're reading this, I'm gone. But you're not alone. The letter spoke of a mission that went off book, a recovery op that turned into a cover-up, a flash drive containing names, locations, and data that could unravel government programs if ever made public. They'll come for you if they know who you are. So don't let them know not until you're ready. Then a knock at his apartment door. 3 precise taps. Colin opened it cautiously. No one was there, but a black and white photo was taped to the frame. Elena, at a bus stop, on the back. You're not the only one who got the letter. Within hours, Elena was gone. Security footage showed 2 men in paramedic uniforms wheeling her out on a gurney. Her room had been cleaned up. No straged, no weaknesses. Discreet. Professional. Colin knew the name on their uniforms. Arion. A black ops group supposedly dissolved in 2011. Only hadn't. They had taken her because of what she carried and who she was. He activated a secure channel and called in the only person he knew who could help. Rhea Langley, a former ghost operative who owed him her life. I need an extraction, he said. You got it, she replied. Send coordinates. They tracked her to a decommissioned military site 14 miles outside the city, disguised as a logistics warehouse. Surveillance confirmed it was an Arion stronghold. Inside, they found her. Cuffed, pale, weak, but conscious. They kept asking about a code, she whispered. Something my father gave me. But I don't have it. You do, Colin told her. You just don't know it yet. Gunfire erupted behind them. Arion agents flooded the corridor. Muck schlungt. Rhea dropped 2 with surgical precision. They escaped through an old maintenance tunnel, Marlowe guiding them through hallways she had never seen but somehow knew, like it was written in her bones. Back at a safe house, they unpacked her past. Inside a hidden compartment in her apartment piano, they found a brass key marked 0471, a DNA report, old photographs, a cassette tape labeled, "When She's Ready." The key led to a safety deposit box in Arlington. Inside, classified documents, photos from Kandahar, and a second DNA report. Marlo Elena Maddox. Subject 6A. Project Helix. Arion hadn't just targeted her. They created her. Project Helix had been a DARPA experiment designed to manipulate genetic traits, intelligence, memory, resilience. Sanaa had been a subject. Jared had been her handler. Elena was the result. She was the only one to survive the process. But the files revealed something else. There were 5. 5 Helix subjects. Elena was just one. The others could be active or about to be. One name stood out. Micah Reeve. And across the country, in the snowy forests of Oregon, a teenage boy with nosebleeds and memories of a girl he'd never met woke up in a cold sweat. He whispered her name. Elena. Part 2, when the others wake. The fire in the Vermont safe house had nearly burned down to glowing embers, but Elena Maddox couldn't sleep. She sat on the floor, knees pulled to her chest, the pocket watch ticking steadily in her palm like a second heartbeat. On the table before her was the decrypted Helix Map 5 red dots, 5 lives changed before they even had names. One of those dots, the one furthest west, had moved in the last 12 hours. Not just shifted, jerked, like a heartbeat reacting to adrenaline. A call answered. Micah Reeve was awake. Miles away, in Silver Pines, Oregon, 17-year-old Micah clutched a worn piece of paper with his name written in bold black letters over a series of numbers. 6A02. He was standing in the woods now, breath fogging in the cold, heart racing. Behind him, the house he'd grown up in was dark silent. But the illusion had been shattered hours earlier when he opened the locked footlocker in the attic and found the files. Not photographs, but scans of his brain. Not letters from family, but logs of test scores, reaction times, cortisol spikes. monitored since birth. Watched. He had always suspected he was different, just never imagined he was engineered. And now he felt her. Not just saw her in dreams. Felt her. Elena. At the safe house, Colin Mercer finished reviewing a heat signature report from Rhea. That's not just movement, he muttered, pointing at the organ signature. That's activation. Rhea Langley narrowed her eyes. You mean like Marlowe? No, I mean worse. Faster. Violent. Elena stood and grabbed the pocket watch. He's scared, she said, but not from what he is. For what he might do. Colin looked up. We leave within the hour. In Oregon, Micah didn't make it far. A black SUV intercepted him at the edge of a county road. Men with unmarked gear stepped out, not police, not military. Arion. Subject 6A02, one of them said. Return to base. Now. Micah's instincts didn't hesitate. He bolted. Not because he had a plan, but because every muscle screamed run. But they didn't shoot. They followed. This wasn't a kill order. This was a retrieval. By the time Elena's team arrived in Oregon, they found evidence of a scuffle's now disturbed, a blood trail, boot prints. Max sniffed it all and growled. They took him, Elena said. Her chest tightened. They're not killing the subjects, Rhea added, crouching beside a broken syringe cap. They're activating them. Colin's face darkened. Or corrupting them. Micah woke up in a cold room. His wrists were cuffed to a metal chair bolted to the floor. The light above him flickered with a buzz. A woman entered. She was in her 50s, silver hair tied back, eyes like ice. She didn't introduce herself. Just spoke like she'd known him forever. You're not broken, Micah, she said. You're unfinished. We're here to help you remember what you were designed for. He stared at her. You think I'll help you? She smiled, slow and clinical. You already are. Back in Vermont, Rhea connected the final fragments of Helix's purpose. It wasn't just genetic engineering. It was psychological programming. 5 subjects, raised in isolation, scattered across the U.S., designed to form a neural lattice when activated a decentralized hive. A control system, she whispered. A network, Elena said, heart-pounding. They're not using us as weapons, she trailed off. They're using us as servers. They had to act fast. With Micah compromised, 3 subjects remained unaccounted for. Nova Castillo, New Mexico, coded empath, subject 6A03. Leo Baines, Detroit, enhanced aggression response, subject 6A04. Rowan Jean, Manhattan, accelerated cognition, subject 6A05. They had to reach them before Arion did. But something else was happening. Elena could feel them flickers of thought that weren't hers, emotions bleeding through like water through cracked stone. Micah's fear. Nova's confusión. Leo's rage. Rowan's silence. She wasn't just sensing them. She was sinking. In Detroit, Leo Bain sat on the edge of a rooftop, hands clenched into fists. His apartment had been ransacked. His mind was screaming. But not with panic. With commands. Subject 6A04. Seek. Eliminate threats. He didn't know why he was hearing it. But the rage was so white-hot it felt right. Back at the Vermont safe house, Max began to whimper. Not out of fear but warning. Colin moved to the window. A red dot flickered on the Helix map. They're moving. All of them. One by one. The subjects were waking in. Not all of them would choose the same path. Elena stood before the fireplace, the pocket watch still ticking in her palm. Her mother's voice echoed in her mind. You weren't made to obey. You were made to choose. And this time, Elena wasn't just carrying her father's secrets or her mother's legacy. She was carrying the future of every Helix subject still breathing. She turned to Colin, voice calm. It's not just about saving Micah anymore. Colin nodded grimly. It's about stopping what he might become.